Yeah, I got a great story about Dave. So this was playing Legion ball for him. In the summer, we were playing at Billings, and we were getting ready, taking batting practice up on the concourse there, and it's all cement. It's like 105 degrees. It's just really hot, and no one's in a super good mood, and especially not me, who's really struggling hitting. And after a particularly bad warm-up round in the cage, Dave pulls me out of the batting cage and says, Nate, what do you weigh? And I go, like 185, 180. And he goes, after pausing for a second, he goes, you know, you're not hitting your weight right now? And I just was like, oh, wow, I did not expect you to say that, coach. And he just goes, so maybe you should stop thinking so hard and just have some fun and just hit. And I just carried that with me, and will always remember him being sort of that really dry sense of humor, but I knew he was in my corner. Like, I always knew that he was my biggest fan on the baseball field, always pulling for me. So I always remember that story.
The first time I met Dave Legg was in the early 80s, I don't know if it was 80 or 81, at San Diego State University on the baseball field. And I didn't play baseball. I was a football player at San Diego State. I played quarterback, and I was a physical education major. And we had to take a series of classes just coaching certain sports. Well, one that was offered was coaching baseball. And so, of course, I missed baseball, played high school baseball, and just was playing football in college. And so I took this class. And the head baseball coach, Jim Dietz, was supposed to teach it. He was in the syllabus, but you never saw him. This really tall, thin guy was the guy who you saw. His assistant coach was Coach Legg. And so we kind of, you know, he knew I was a quarterback, and, you know, he was the assistant coach, and you're out there just playing baseball. And so one of the things he used to say was, if you're ever going to coach baseball, you have to be able to hit a fungo. You know, the long, skinny bat, ground balls, fly balls, you got to hit a fungo. And so we're hitting fungos, and that was part of the big curriculum, was learning how to hit a fungo. And lo and behold, one day he says, all right, here's the deal. If anybody here can hit a catcher pop-up. Now, catcher pop-ups are kind of hard to hit. You got to hit them straight up in the air. And he said, if you can hit one and it comes down and lands on the dirt circle around the plate, and it's a legit one, up over the backstop, automatic A, you don't have to come to class anymore. So I'm thinking, well, I can do that. I played high school baseball. I used to hit fungos. And so sure enough, one day in class, I said, hey, Coach Legg, I want to do that catcher pop-up thing. He goes, oh, you think you can do it? Never had anybody do it. I said, I'll do it. I can do it. And so okay, at the end of class, I tossed one up and probably hit the best one I've ever hit in my life. And it went up and it came down and almost landed on the plate. And so I slammed the bat down and walked up the field and pointed at him, and he's rolling. He's standing out there by second base, and he's just laughing, having a great time. And so walked off, I pointed at him, and, you know, hey, easy A, don't have to come to class anymore. Well, the next class we met, I still went to class because I still wanted to go out and play baseball. So he's looking at me like, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I want to play baseball. This is fun. This is a fun class. I like this. And so he laughed, and obviously I stayed out there. So that was the first time we ever met.
My impressions of Dave was, right off the bat, was he's trustworthy. And, you know, that proved to be true. He was brutally honest with the kids when they needed to be, and he was a father when they needed one.
He was hard. He was really hard. He expected a lot out of you. He wanted the most out of you, but you could tell under that hard layer that he cared about you and that he just wanted the best for you.
The first time I met Dave was probably about 1980, 81. I'm at University of Texas at El Paso as an assistant. Dave was at San Diego State. It might have been a year or two after that, but we could never beat San Diego State. And Jim Dietz wasn't the most personable guy, and I was an assistant. Dave was an assistant. We started talking, between games or before games, after games, and developed a little bit of a friendship. And over the years, playing at UTEP against San Diego State, and then I went to Wyoming, and at that point, we really started a conversation about maybe the possibility of Dave coming to Laramie with me. And the reason for me was I saw what San Diego State did, and we could never defend it. We had a real hard time trying to defend everything that San Diego State did, whether it was on offense or defense. And I wanted to learn about that as a coach. And so Dave was, somehow the conversation came up. I had an assistant's position open. We started really talking about it. Never thought that he would leave San Diego to come to Laramie. But by golly, in August he came up, and 5 years, it was some of the funnest years I've ever had in college coaching. And he was such a good coach. I learned so much from him. And he did bring some of that San Diego State stuff to us. And we were able at the end, those last couple years, of beating San Diego State. And so fond memories of particularly the 1990 team, coming within a half game of winning the WAC and beating San Diego State 3 out of 4 times at San Diego State. And I'm sure Dave was very happy about that and very proud of that. But that's how we met, and that's how we kind of got together. And again, it was a tremendous 5 years that we spent together.
Gosh, there's so many memories of how special he was, and coming from California, Southern California, to Laramie, Wyoming, was a shock, obviously, for he and Melinda, and he always just made fun of the weather. And we got stuck. Our buses broke down one time in Walsenburg, I think, Colorado, Southern Colorado, and we were on our way home, and it was in the middle of the night. And I'll just never forget. In fact, there's a picture somewhere of a group of us, and we couldn't get a motel room because they were all full, and so we literally kind of slept out on the sidewalks on our bat bags and on our duffel bags. And I remember him just saying, "What in the hell am I doing here? Why am I coaching in Wyoming?" And we laughed and had a great time. And then there was a long break between when they left back after Cody passed away, and they went back to California. Wyoming lost their baseball program. Very emotional moment. My brother had passed away. I didn't realize Cody had passed. 20 years later, I'm coming for an elk hunt. We elk hunt. My father-in-law has elk hunted south of Ennis for 45 years. And we were meeting up at the Cenex store right there. And my son and I were sitting at the cooler getting drinks ready to purchase. And I turned to my right, and Dave Legg is standing there. And I could not believe it. And God works in mysterious and amazing ways, and that brought us back together, and it was incredible. We hugged each other, we cried, we waited 45 minutes for my wife to get there, and it was super special. And so that was probably 10 years ago, and we reconnected. He was coaching for the Bozeman Bucks, and we spent some time during ball games in Billings reconnecting, and of course then most recently with the golf outing, and so just super special.
Well, I think he was kind of the ultimate team guy. He had the ability to recognize personalities. He had the ability to care. He was a lot of love. He was a coach. He was the guy you wanted to coach your son, by far. My son ended up going on and playing college baseball, and to this day, he learned more baseball from Coach Legg than any of his college coaches.
I think the biggest thing that Dave taught me under his tutelage was not only just baseball, just hitting, all the works, X, Y, Z. But I think the biggest thing for him was just trying to develop as a man, was a big thing that I would accredit him with. Just being one of the best listeners I think I've ever come across. In my highs and lows, I could speak to him and I know I was being heard, and he would give me sound, applicable advice afterwards, just to really better myself and not be so conflicted in what I was doing, and just giving more assurance in what I was doing as a man and where I was trying to go as a man, and just being all around great person. I think that he was just absolutely sound in that process.
The advice he gave me when I was being coached by him was, it wasn't really much to do with baseball as much as it was to do outside of baseball. Most of it was about treating, at that time, my girlfriend, soon to be fiance, in the way that she needed to be, and also just to be a godly man, and that baseball is just a speck in our life, and that what we do beyond that is greater in God's hands.
Things that he taught me, the biggest things that I take away even to this day, basically how to be a man. A lot of it, be an honest man, be a good man, be punctual, be respectful. Things that he instilled in us as kids, I take to my jobs every day, or in my private life with my wife. I saw how he was with Melinda, and just an honest guy, and that's what I try to be.
I can remember two great stories that I have that he and I had interactions on. And one was, Dave was the calm, cool, collected coach. Always had a certain expression of calmness to him. And we were on a road trip, about a 2-week road trip from Laramie. We were going through New Mexico, Texas, maybe even Phoenix at that time, and we were driving what we called the street sweeper, which was basically a bus that you see at the airport, that drives you around. And he and I would trade off driving, and he was naturally a better driver than I was. But we were on a stretch of road between Lubbock and El Paso, 2-lane road. I'm driving, cruising along, and a semi was coming towards us, on the other side of the road, and I kind of veered over a little bit because I thought we needed more room, and a tire went off the shoulder, and we kind of almost did a little, the tires came up, and we came back down. I got it in control. We were never in real big danger, but it scared the crap out of me. And I'm driving, and I look over, and Dave's sitting there, and I can still see that look, and he kind of just glances at me and says, "You okay?" And I said, "No." And as soon as we stopped, I never drove that bus again. And he drove the whole way for the rest of the next 2 years. I never got behind the wheel then. That's something that the players still talk about. They still laugh about it because I can still hear everybody in the back yelling at me, from them being jostled around. The other story is a little bit, it's one of the biggest heartbreaks I've ever had as a coach. In 1990, we had a really good team. We came within 3 outs basically of winning the WAC that year. And we lose in the last inning in Fort Collins, and we go back and we go to the tournament in Hawaii, and we're playing BYU to get to the championship game, And in the last inning, we're 1 run down, and Dave ran the offense. And we had first and third with 2 outs, and we always ran a delay steal at first, and we scored, and we'd steal the guy home. Well, BYU makes a terrific play, but the guy, we beat the play at home and the umpire calls him out. Our season's over. It's heartbreak for everybody. And that group, that 90 group, still gets together. We still talk about that. We almost start crying every time we talk about it because it's such an impactful thing in our life. And he comes in the dugout, and you could tell that he was okay. And he says, "Hey, did I make the right call?" And I said, "Absolutely. I'd do it again. Same way." But that was Dave. He cared so much. He was and cared about his players so much. Those guys that played for him just loved him. The way he coached them, the way he treated them. It taught me lots of lessons.
He coached me for 3 years. And honestly, some of the best wisdom I got from him were the things he didn't say. He was really good. He just had a knack for just kind of being present and just kind of being there when you knew things weren't really going great. He helped me a lot just kind of from the baseball side of things. I wasn't the most talented baseball player, and he knew that and kind of really stepped up alongside me and really helped me out through my baseball career.
Things that he taught us as a little one that I carry on today are just responsibility, respect, and just to be a good human being. He always lived by what he said. Throughout all those years of playing with him, he never lost his temper, he never lost his cool. Nobody ever had a problem with him because he was just a man of his word and followed what he said and taught the kids, and it was more than just baseball.
Yeah, there was another moment where, again, I was struggling and overthinking and just pressing, trying really hard, and he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, are you trying to be perfect right now?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to be perfect." I thought that was kind of the right answer, And he said that this always stuck with me. He said, there was only one guy ever that was perfect, and they hung him on a cross. So you don't have to worry about being perfect. You can just give it your best and try your best. And so I still think about that often when I'm overdoing something or trying to be too perfect and fine about something. I remember those words and just remember that my best effort is good enough, and just trust that it'll work itself out.
Yeah, I mean, early in my career, I think the biggest thing he taught me was to make sure I be myself and continue to build those relationships with players. I think anyone that knew Dave knew he was a really relational guy, and that was something he strove for in every aspect of his life as a coach, and I think, that continued into his family life. And, one thing that I'll consistently carry with me that I learned from him in the few years that I knew him was that if you're able to be, genuine and real with yourself and genuine and real with the players you're surrounding yourselves with, they're going to respond to that.
My friendship with Dave, we kind of got reacquainted from our San Diego State days when I was down there and he was down there, and then he went to Wyoming and scattered around and, figured I'd never see this guy again, but you don't think that way. So then he comes back into town and I start hearing a name, and Legg, you kind of remember that name. So I was coaching and teaching at Murrieta Valley High School, and he was running he had a hitting business, indoor hitting cage, and then I heard he got a job at Chavela Middle School as a PE teacher. And so in the meantime, the school district was building our second high school, Vista Murrieta, and I had always heard as a teacher that you, at some time in your career, need to open a school. It's kind of, you'll do it once, you won't do it a second time, because there's a lot of work and a lot of hats you got to wear. So anyway, we both applied, and we're kind of early teachers to get hired as they're all the planning stages. So we kind of rekindled. And our boys, I have 2 sons, and he has DC and Derek, and they're similar age, different schools but similar age. So we kind of had a natural kind of affinity as fathers with these 2 kids that are about the same age. And so we kind of reacquainted, and we both got jobs teaching, and Dave and I just kind of got along. I mean, he's a Christian man. I'm a Christian man. We've had a lot of conversations over our faith and just how you teach and how you coach. And I always wanted to coach with Dave. So when I got the job at Vista Murrieta, they hired me, and they kind of talked me into doing the track and field team. I was going to do football and coach baseball with Dave. And so it was kind of like, all right, I'm a responsible guy. I guess I probably need to do that. So eventually, I got to the point after about 5-6 years where I just, Dave was talking about moving to Montana and had a place up there, and eventually he's going to get up there and fly fish and become a guide. And well, if I'm going to coach with him ever, I better do it. So I resigned from the track and I looked at Dave and I said, hey, I want to come coach baseball. I know you got a full staff, but I want to coach with you and hang with you every day. And he just jumped at the chance. He said, I love that. Yes. And so I got to coach with Dave a little bit. He was head coach, and then when his son Cody was killed, he stepped down, and he was still coaching, and so I was still kind of out there with the next head coach, and so I got to kind of finish up during Dave's career, actually coaching with him and talking baseball and being on a baseball field and hitting fungos and seeing if I could rekindle a catcher pop-up, which I wasn't very good. My back's a little tighter now at my age, but. And so Dave and I became very, very close, and then us retiring and moving kind of up here in the general vicinity in Idaho, they would come over there in their trailer and hang out, and we'd come over here and hang at their place, and kind of really bonded a lot, a big time. So really, Dave and I have known each other for 42 years. Coached by Dave in there, I was telling the high school players that we're part of at Vista Murrieta, that I don't know if any San Diego State Aztecs that he coached my age are coming to this. But if they're not, I probably am the oldest person ever coached by Dave Legg. And it wasn't even, I never got put on a lineup card. It was in a class at San Diego State, so.
What did he teach me in my life moving forward? He taught me how to take a step back, how to take a moment, how to breathe. He used to say, "Breathe through your eyelids." It's a quote from what's the movie? Bull Durham. Is a quote from Bull Durham. He taught me how to breathe through my eyelids. It was just to take a moment. And I think a lot of times I let emotions get the best of me. I let whatever was happening affect how I felt and how I reacted. He just taught me to take a step back, to breathe, to take in the moment, and to just move forward with a better reaction than I would have had I reacted emotionally.
From the advice that he gave me with my time at Corbin, I just took it as I was always the person that I needed to have my hand in every pot. I needed to control everything. But what he was telling me was that God's hand is in everything, and to just leave it to him. And at that point, it's going to fall. The chips are going to fall where they may. And to just let him do the rest, and you kind of just sit back and watch the show. So that I took that to heart, and I still live to that till this day. And that was the biggest piece of advice that he gave me.
The best way to put it, I was having a bad day at the field, and he pulled me down the line and, heard me out on my issues, and then, kind of pretty much asked me where else I'd want to be. And I think that was just the way he was, is there any place we'd rather be than a baseball field? And I think, throughout his life, that was something that he stood for on the baseball field. And, I probably can't give too many details on what was bugging me that day, but I think, he helped me bridge a gap, and obviously playing for, his son Derek was an interesting dynamic. I love Derek, and he's been a huge mentor to me as well. But he helped, let's say Dave helped me get to know Derek better in the times that I was playing for Derek.
So one thing that Dave taught me is to leave something better than you found it. I remember one time when we were in Wyoming, and it's probably the worst game I've probably ever played in. Afterwards, we're all kind of leaving, and our dugouts, it was still dirty. And he got on me for not picking up, the cups or whatever right there. And I just remember him just getting on me for that. And I was like, it wasn't my intentions, but now it's like, no matter what, every single baseball dugout, I make sure the thing is spotless. So I think a big thing is like, make things better than how you found it.
The last time I saw Dave was at our Wyoming reunion this last October. Dave was very sick, and we had planned this. We had been talking about this 90 team getting together for a long, long time, 2-3 years. We finally put a plan together. I had retired, so I had time. I could go do something rather than coach baseball. So we planned this out or this weekend in Reno, Nevada, of all places, and there was probably 20-25 guys from that era came in, and Dave wasn't feeling well, and he made it, and it was no doubt the highlight of our weekend. Not only just to see him and be around him, but to say goodbye, and we knew what was going on, and it was just a great moment for us, and I'll never forget it.
The last time I saw Dave he was in the office, and this was probably early summer, probably about this time last summer. Still upbeat, still we're going to beat this thing. Kind of whispered to me as we're walking out of the room, and he says, cancer's not going to beat me. My wife worrying about me is what's going to beat me. And we just kind of had a little chuckle together, and I don't realize the last time you see somebody, but it's my last thought is a big smile of him.
Last time I saw Dave was before I made the decision to leave Oregon, which was probably around, I want to say, spring of 2021. I was fortunate enough to run into him for a few hours at a barbecue at the Legger house. And we just had a good little catch up on the couch. It was really just genuine, and we just caught up like the good old days and just talked the talk and talked to him about his situation and my situation, and just went through it. And I can say it was an absolute joy to just speak words with him, no matter the circumstances. And yeah, can't say enough about the guy, but it was short and sweet.
Funny story about Dave. We had an ongoing joke between both of us there at the end of a night before it was dark, but after the sun had set, I could not see the ball. It was gone. And there was one game in particular that it was a close game. And before we went out to play defense, I went up to Coach Legg and I asked him to take me out of the game because I couldn't see the ball. And he laughed at me, he grabbed my shoulders, he turned me around, and he pushed me back onto the field and said, "Go get him, Tiger."
Last time I saw Pops was a home game for Corbin. We played LC State. We had a little memorial service at Derek's house. He was there. We kind of just all got together and, had a few drinks. This is, he's pretty sick at this point, but kind of all got together, exchanged, hugs and talked and had a good conversation. Then he came to the field the next day. We played LC State, and he came out on the field. We honored him. We did a video on the video board. It was great. And so he came out on the field with us, did the national anthem, and then shook all of our hands and walked off. And that was the last day I saw him.
I had the pleasure of seeing Dave. He came out to visit Derek's family in Salem not too far before he passed. So it was right around Halloween of this past year. And, that's something I'll cherish forever. That was when, Derek had to come out here a couple times to help Dave as much as he could. So I was doing some of the Corbin baseball coaching stuff through Derek's last year there. And it was nice to stay in touch with both of them, I think. As I mentioned, Derek's been a huge mentor to me, and to be able to take the program in the direction that he wanted it, and the few days that he wasn't able to be there, and then get advice from Dave on that time he was here. The last thing Dave wanted to talk about was himself. As soon as he saw me, he wanted to talk about the baseball team and how I was doing and how Derek was doing. And I think just that genuine desire to see us grow as coaches and men is, something that'll stick with me from that last conversation.
One of the last times I saw Dave, it was underneath Spectators, which is a bar, and there was hitting cages down there. And I had previously it was my first year of college in Hawaii. I had a horrible fall. Called Coach Legg and asked him, hey, think you can come and hit with me? So they had a spot underneath Spectators, just it's a dive bar. It's cages and we just hit over the winter break and just getting me back, backtracking, and we hit and we did all that. And then going into my spring season, I led the team in batting average, and the last time I saw him was him helping me when I struggled and ended up, turning around my college career.
I don't know the last time I saw Dave, to be honest with you. I think it was probably the summer of 2016, maybe. I played summer baseball in Laramie for a summer collegiate team, and on my way to Laramie, I stopped in Bozeman. I think I saw Dave, and we chatted about Laramie and his old days, being there with the Wyoming baseball team and coaching there. So he gave me some advice and kind of joked around with me that at that elevation, if you can't hit a home run at that stadium, you're never going to hit one. And sure enough, I didn't hit a home run that summer. So I had to answer to him with that as well.
If I could see Coach Legg now, I would thank him for everything he taught me on my journey through life. Going from 8 years old to 18, he showed me how to be a man, a lot of it. And I would just say thank you. And I really appreciate everything he did for me.
That's a good question. If I could see Dave now, Coach Legg, obviously the thank you, right? But I'm sure everyone's going to say that. That's just what it is. But I just like him, and I hope he's watching now, just to look at all the lives he's touched and just the people that showed up today, whatever distance they had to travel. But just to see how much of an impact he had, even though it's been 15, 20 years for some of these guys. There's a reason we're here, and I think that speaks volumes.
I love him. I would tell him I'm going to look out after his family. If they need me, I'll be there. I think the thing about Dave is there was always a comfort level. He had the ability to kind of know how you felt, and he would if you felt down, he'd try to bring you up, and this was kids or parents or whomever, and he wasn't afraid to walk his head high. He believed in everything he did, and he did everything he believed in. And I guess the last thing I would probably want to say to him would be, I wish I was more like you.
If I could see Dave right now, one thing I would tell him is thank you so much for all the advice that you've given me throughout my career with Corbin and outside of Corbin. He was one of the biggest people that helped me with my faith in Christ and my walk with Christ. And just having him tell me just to open up the Bible was just more than enough for me to actually continue my walk and my walk in my life within Christ. And so I would just say thank you for that little nugget, and I love him.
If I can talk to Dave now, I'd just tell him how much I appreciated everything that he's done for me. Not just in baseball, but in life. It's kind of funny just thinking back on all the past memories and how much it's made you change the way you did things today for the better. And I appreciate, everything that he's done for me, and I'm just blessed to have had him as a coach.
Yeah, I think if I saw Dave today, I told him thank you a lot, but I don't think you can ever thank a guy enough for empowering you to do what you're passionate about. Coaching baseball is a great way for us to mold lives and create young men that are going to go off into society and continue to better it. And he's got that postered all across his ledger from his years of coaching. Just here tonight, the amount of men that are here that he built and helped grow. So I think I just, give him a hug and say thank you again for allowing us to do that and mentoring us while we did it.
He's one of the few coaches that I ever had that I could really tell there was just a very genuine care for his athletes and the people that he worked with. And he pushed us and knew how to push us to get the best out of us, but not so far that we ever doubted that he cared about us. We knew, every one of us knew 100% that he cared about us, more importantly as people rather than ball players. So I would just thank him for that, and just, I would just thank him for all those little lessons, those little moments. I could give you 5 more stories if you asked me. Just of valuable lessons that I learned from him, working with him, playing for him. And so I would just give him a handshake and thank him.
Tell him if I could see Dave right now, if I could see Coach Legg right now, it's not Dave to me, it's Coach Legg. If I could see Coach Legg right now, I'd tell him I love him. I'd tell him that he has made more impact on my life than a lot of people, that I miss the heck out of him, and that I miss him, a lot.
Dave meant so much to me. Naturally those 5 years were tremendous as your right-hand guy, and really he wasn't right-hand guy. We were basically co-head coaches there. I mean, everything, we shared everything, and when he left and I left, we didn't talk all the time, but I had the opportunity to coach DC, and I was thinking about that today on the drive up. Is maybe the ultimate thank you is to have your kid go play for a friend of yours, or he trusted me to have DC. That was huge for me, and so I know what Dave meant. I know what I meant to Dave, and I know what he means to me, and that was a good time for us as well, because Cody had just passed away, and so I was around DC a little bit at that point and tried to help as much as I could, but but being around Dave and Melinda was special for me, and I wish we could have done it longer.